Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Saturday. This is a live emergency briefing on the threat of strong tornadoes that looks to be increasing tomorrow across southwestern Oklahoma to central Oklahoma, and then continuing tomorrow night as that squall line with embedded tornadic circulations surges off to the east through eastern Oklahoma, all the way up into southeastern Kansas, southwestern Missouri, and eventually into eastern Arkansas, building down into central Texas as well. But highlighted here is where I think that the threat of strong tornadoes is greatest tomorrow, and I think that those storms could initiate as early as 4 p.m. Central Time and then move up, likely up that I-44 corridor toward the Oklahoma City Metro by tomorrow evening. And I do think that there is a certain, definitely a threat of daytime tornadoes as well, not just the nocturnal threat. I am also watching the Oklahoma game. We are going live during halftime of that game. I do think that Oklahoma is going to come back. Wondering if Spencer Rattler's time over there at OU might be limited with Caleb Williams in now dominating, but I do think that OU is going to come back in the second half and likely beat Texas. Again, similar to last year. I think that the last many years have been kind of roaring comebacks with the Sooners coming back and dominating. But we got to focus on this tornado threat tomorrow, Sunday. And coincidentally, Storm Rising, Episode 2 actually premieres on National Geographic Channel tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Central. So I'll be deep into the storm chase by the time that happens. And Oklahomans, it is important for you to stay tuned to those severe weather watches and warnings tomorrow night because it definitely does look like big-time tornado potential is going to materialize to the east of that dry line. And let's take a look now at the forecast models. We'll look at the 3-kilometer NAM. The HRRR is also very ominous, showing that supercell moving right up the I-44 corridor, as they often do in Oklahoma. They often initiate there in southwestern Oklahoma, then move up that I-44 corridor, approaching the Oklahoma City area. At least that's the track that the tornado that hit my house took. Right up I-44, EF2 tornado hit my house there in Norman. Gizmo is actually inside my house in Norman with the Dominator 1 parked in my driveway, broken down, and I was on a different storm off to the north near the Fairview, Oklahoma area. So Gizmo has intercepted one more tornado than I was able to intercept. And so this is the low-level jet, and that's at 0Z. This is the 3-kilometer NAM, the 12Z 3-kilometer NAM. And storms will actually initiate to the west of that low-level jet axis at about 21Z, right out in this location, probably near the Altus area by about 4 p.m. And watch this low-level jet build back to that shortwave, back to the 850 low as well. 3-kilometer NAM looks a little bit weird, so I expected this model to kind of gravitate closer to the GFS, so that 850 low track up across northern Oklahoma. But it does look like it held firm with that 850 low, basically moving from southwest Oklahoma through central Oklahoma as well. And look at this low-level jet build back to the west, back toward that storm. And this is a development that we didn't have before, this late development of the low-level jet. So by about 21Z, I do expect this storm to maybe not go tornadic right out of the gate. It might take a couple of hours, closer to 6 p.m., as this thing is ripping up the I-44 corridor. Then the low-level jet's going to intensify just off to its south, 40 to 50 knot low-level jet streaming into it. And this storm is just going to ride right along the northern gradient of that low-level jet, right along the nose of that low-level jet there. At least that's what the models are indicating. Looking at your 0 to 1 kilometer EHI, basically showing you where the surface-based instability and the 0 to 1 kilometer shear will co-locate. And this is at 0Z, and it actually has the best environment down here in southwestern Oklahoma, pretty close to the Red River. And then that nose starts to arrive here in the Oklahoma City Metro by about 7 p.m. in the evening, just on time for that storm coming in from the southwest. And by 1Z, look at the low-level jet. It ramps up and causes the storm relative helicity in the lowest kilometer to really blow up there. Look at some of these values here in excess of 300, just feeding any storms that might develop. And this does look a lot different than the GFS was showing, which mixed that dry line all the way to the I-35 corridor. And it looked like the earlier SBC risk was centered around Durant, but we always knew how these systems work. They always slow down a little bit. That outlook will end up coming back west to the initiating boundary. In this case, it is that dry line. The triple point moves right up the I-44 corridor, and the 3-kilometer NAM is already resolving this supercell, chugging up the I-44 corridor approaching the Oklahoma City area by 7 or 8 p.m. This is the timing at about 8 p.m. 3-kilometer NAM resolving one massive supercell, rolling up the I-44 corridor there. There you can see that supercell approaching Oklahoma City by about 9 p.m. And I do think that overnight storms are going to build down the dry line into northern Oklahoma, maybe, or into northern Texas, maybe even central Texas eventually. And then it begins to congeal into a line by about 10 p.m., 11 p.m. at night here. Embedded tornado warnings throughout this line. That moisture then surges up to southeastern Kansas, even southwestern Missouri could be in play. Here you can see those 70-plus dew points reaching Tulsa by about 9 p.m., 9 to 10 p.m. That's when those 70-plus dew points reach the northeastern portion of the state. And these are only going to continue to advect from south to north, taking over southwestern Missouri, western Arkansas, with that big low-level jet dry line. And this system is shallow enough to where it's not going to clear out the moisture. I saw a lot of millennials concerned that this initial system might impede the moisture return for Tuesday's system. Always trying to find the negatives with these setups, but I do think that this system is plenty shallow to where that reservoir of moisture is going to sit down there in Texas and then re-blast off to the north through western Oklahoma, western Kansas, into southern Nebraska. And it looks like on Tuesday, western Kansas, western Oklahoma, even the Texas Panhandle could certainly have all hazards possible for severe weather. But first we got to get through Sunday and Monday. It looks like that tornado threat may eject off to the Midwest, portions of Michigan, Illinois. Those locations, Illinois, look Indiana, look quite active on the following day here. We can look at the NAM model, purposely avoiding the HRRR model for now. So during the day on Monday, and we'll go to 21Z, but it does look like there's quite a low-level jet here by peak heating across northern Illinois, east of an 850 low, lifting off to the northeast, southeastern Wisconsin, 50-plus knots there, and that low-level jet extends downstream, too, across the lower peninsula of Michigan as well. Taking a look at some of those dew points, see how they evolve. 60-plus dew points here, more than sufficient for October up in my home state of Michigan there as well. So this is the regular NAM. Let's take a look at where the instability axis makes it during the day on Monday. And there's that instability axis. It is a little bit east here of the southeastern Wisconsin, northern Illinois area. Destabilizing a bit, though, across central, southern lower Michigan, down into Indiana. And there is a pretty decent low-level jet as well across that region. But probably a low cape, high shear type of a situation up here across Michigan, including northern lower Michigan as well. So a very meridional pattern with this system impacting Oklahoma and then rocketing off toward the Great Lakes region. And does look pretty interesting downstream across lower Michigan. Let's take a look at the 0 to 1 kilometer storm relative felicity. And it is a lot higher across central and northern lower Michigan up toward the thumb. Definitely has the greatest area there of 0 to 1 kilometer shear. More than supportive of tornadoes up here. And even that 0 to 1 kilometer shear greater than 200 back towards southeastern Wisconsin, northeastern Illinois. Quite favorable for that tornado threat as well. But then the big trough ejects from the Rockies on Tuesday. Absolutely mondo storm system here. There you can see that storm system, a lot of flow on the backside of it, diving in toward Tornado Alley by Tuesday, and there it is. Classic trough ejection, big bowling ball, right over the Four Corners region by Tuesday, and that's going to bring that severe weather threat downstream of it. Western Kansas, southwestern Nebraska, right near the nose of that ski jump, western Oklahoma, down into the eastern Texas Panhandle as well. There's that massive low-level jet axis. A telltale sign of a big tornado outbreak like this is to have these very substantial low-level jets covering multiple states in the warm sector of these storm systems. Really quickly, let me see what the line is here in the Oklahoma game, folks. Second half. It is halftime. We're doing this weather briefing on purpose during halftime. I'm hitting the road right after the Oklahoma game. I am going to go live as well. take Oklahoma minus the 6.5 there. Sometimes you got to adjust at halftime to really dominate this. But I think Oklahoma might even win the game. And that would involve outscoring Texas by more than 6.5 points, of course. But there you can see that big warm sector here. Let me show you where the instability axis is located. That's your storm relative helicity in the 0 to 3 kilometer layer, showing a very strongly sheared warm sector across multiple states. And there's your 0 to 1 kilometer storm or EHI in the lowest kilometer, showing you this skinny arc of instability up through western Nebraska, all the way up to Dan Fitz's place up there. Could get some convection, maybe even some tornadoes. Western Kansas looks quite favorable, at least in the composite index sense here, with a favorable environment all the way through eastern Texas Panhandle down through western Oklahoma. And that's at 0Z as well. So let's take a look at a forecast sounding down across western Oklahoma. PDS tornado sounding. Massive elevated mixed layer there. Look at that dry layer of air coming in the mid-levels of the atmosphere here. 700, 500 millibars, steepening those lapse rates. This is the parcel ascent, parcel temperature, warmer than the red line, which is the environmental temperature, all the way up to the equilibrium level. Decent moisture, dew points in the upper 60s. Big looping hodograph here with your 1 kilometer wind, pushing 50 knots out of the due south. Your mid-level winds are quite strong there, 40, 50, 60 knots, but storm motion, manageable. Southwest to northeast at about 40 knots. So just the NAM sounding is looking quite favorable down there. A lot more instability down into western Oklahoma. There's your instability axis in the GFS model, showing you western Oklahoma up to southwestern Kansas toward Dodge City. Skinny axis of instability extending up into central Nebraska as well. So we'll now look at a forecast hodograph there, southwestern Kansas. Massive hodograph on the GFS. That's probably up pretty close to my head up there, but that is a textbook hodograph for strong tornado potential. The NAM even has a more stout elevated mix layer than the GFS is indicating. So this looks like I'll be down in the southern plains for quite some time. And then looking at Wednesday, we kind of run out of instability. The system runs out of that instability axis. Then we'll have to either pivot back toward the snow coverage across the Rockies or head to fall leaf peeping coverage here across the southern Appalachians with my mom on Wednesday. And I'm going to be keeping a close eye on this very active pattern here, everybody. Getting things ready to go, packing up Dominator 4, hitting the road here, storm chase potential, storm chase mode being activated. Nice consolidated jet stream across the U.S. And with all that cold water in the Pacific Decadal Oscillation, or PDO horseshoe, we're definitely going to have the tendency for this consolidated jet to form a western U.S. trough. And I think that's why we're going to have an active fall season here across Tornado Alley. I think that the spring 2022 is going to be incredibly active as well during the fall season. Look at this. Looks like a south central U.S. setup here toward the end of next week. So it'd be about Friday, October 15 or so. Looks like even Dixie Alley could come alive there. Well, not much of a low-level jet. We'll just have to keep an eye out on this active pattern. First, though, we have to get through Sunday. So let's take a look real quickly at the latest. Got some laundry there getting done, everybody. Man, look at that 850 low. So the HRRR did come a little bit toward the GFS, kind of having an average track of that 850 low, right along the nose of the low-level jet there. That's at 0Z, so we can zoom in a little bit closer to the state of Oklahoma. There's that 850 low, right smack dab in central Oklahoma. And most of the models have shown that there's going to be a lone supercell anchored right within that 850 low. And there it is, by the HRRR, run to run, showing you this evolution of that supercell coming right up the I-44 corridor toward the Oklahoma City Metro by about 8 p.m. on Sunday. So it's time to get those tornado shelters dialed in, everybody. I would say that tornado warnings are a certainty with this pattern. 3-kilometer NAM, HRRR model, lots of agreement within the short fuse models here, taking these supercells up the I-44 corridor, right along the nose of that low-level jet, about a 40 to 50 knot low-level jet here by 8 p.m. Likely going to have a strong strong tornado-producing supercell coming into central Oklahoma, riding the nose of this low-level jet, right near that 850 low as well. And then the overnight nocturnal threat of severe weather and tornadoes spreads across eastern Oklahoma, southwestern Missouri, western Arkansas, building down into northern Texas, maybe all the way down into central Texas as well, potentially. So when you look at some of your composite indices here, let's just pull out the significant tornado parameter for fun here by 8 p.m. And this shows an environment favorable for strong tornadoes throughout central Oklahoma, including the I-35 corridor, including Oklahoma City, Norman, down back toward Lawton as well. There's that triple point. Still a little bit, well, it kind of have a double triple point structure. I would say that triple point is very close to Oklahoma County by 8 p.m. And then that significant tornado parameter expands as it moves off to the east. Eventually, though, that convective line is going to outrun the instability, but not before it reaches the Ozarks. Southwestern Missouri could be in play, northeastern Oklahoma. Pretty favorable environment building down through the Paris, Texas area, northeast Texas down there, supportive of those strong tornadoes. You can click anywhere within those bright colors and just see a textbook photograph there. Textbook soundings for tornado potential. So I'm going to be hitting the road here after this barn burner of a second half in the OU game. Stay tuned, everybody, for my live weather reports, my live streams. I'll be going live on Facebook and YouTube once again. I am seeing a late night signal here right around midnight for these supercells moving into the jungle of southeastern Oklahoma, building down into northeastern Texas here. Could be a couple monster supercells moving into that very complex topography down there, southeastern Oklahoma. So watch the tail end down here, northeast Texas into southeastern Oklahoma, all the way up into southwestern Missouri. Big convective line. This is at midnight here for timing, southwestern Missouri, northwestern Arkansas, eastern Oklahoma, all the way down into northeastern Texas. So this is the timing based on these latest models. This is my target area based on these models, kind of my human interpretation of the forecast model so far. And last I heard, I think that the Storm Prediction Center also added a hatch area for strong tornadoes across southwestern Oklahoma toward the Oklahoma City Metro as well. So I'll have to take a look at that. But right now, here you can see strong tornado threat southwestern Oklahoma into central Oklahoma here. Cluster of supercells, maybe one monster supercell just likely riding up the I-44 corridor, developing at around 4 or 5 p.m., moving up I-44, approaching Oklahoma City by about 7 or 8 p.m. So I've got the subsonic sensor ready to go. That's going to be my science mission, deploying the subsonic as close as I can, if not inside of a tornado. Mark will be pretty upset if that subsonic sensor goes airborne. Meeting up with Captain Vanover as well, the drone racer, teaming up with him to try to accomplish our drone mission. And then there's also rumors that Bob Menery might be joining us on Tuesday for the storm chase there, western Kansas into western Oklahoma as well. So lots of storm chasing ahead, and then I'm probably going to be heading toward the southern Appalachians for leaf peeping season, but keeping a very close eye on this very active second season ahead. A lot of cold water in the PDO horseshoe out there in the subtropical and northern Pacific. So eastern, northeastern Pacific, we can call it. So we'll, I think that's going to continue through next spring, likely resulting in an active tornado season as well, spring 2022. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in to my weather report this Saturday. Time to hit the road. I'm going to go live again on my way down to the target area. Never stop chasing.